Welcome to another explainer. Today we're zooming way in, literally into the fundamental building blocks of, well, us. If you've ever wondered how your body actually functions down on a microscopic level, or if you're just incredibly curious about the hidden machinery of biology, you are in the perfect place. Today we're unpacking the animal cell, which is truly the fundamental unit of life. We're going to break down its structure step by step and explore this incredible hidden world inside every single one of us.
Our journey today is basically an outside-in, microscopic map. We'll start with number 1, the cell's outer boundary, then we'll move inward to 2, the central control or the nucleus. After that, we'll explore 3, the cytoplasmic environment, identify 4, key cell organelles, and finish up the whole thing with 5, the living material, protoplasm.
Section 1. The cell's outer boundary. The city walls. Okay, let's dive right into this.
When you look at an animal cell, the very first thing you're going to encounter is this outer covering called the plasma membrane. Now, it's really important to get that this isn't some rigid, immovable box. It's actually a thin, highly elastic boundary that completely wraps around the animal cell. You'll also frequently hear it referred to simply as the cell membrane. It holds everything together, sure, but its job is far more dynamic than just sitting there acting like a physical wall.
In fact, it has a crucial secondary name you'll definitely want to remember for exams, the selectively permeable membrane. Think of it as a strict gatekeeper, or like a microscopic bouncer. It literally selects the specific materials allowed to enter the cell and heavily controls what's allowed to exit. It doesn't just let anything pass through blindly. That strict selectivity is exactly what keeps the cell safe, balanced, and functioning properly.
Section 2, the central control, nucleus, the headquarters.
So moving inward from those outer walls, right into the dead center of the cell, you'll find a very distinct, rounded body. This is the nucleus, the absolute command center of the animal cell. But, an important headquarters needs top-tier security, right? That's why the nucleus doesn't just float there exposed to everything else. It's covered and deeply protected by its very own specialized outer layer, appropriately called the nuclear membrane.
Peeking inside that secure nuclear vault, we find 2 key components. First, the entire inner space is filled with a specialized liquid known as nucleoplasm. And floating right within that liquid nucleoplasm is yet another even smaller rounded body. That tiny, highly concentrated inner structure is called the nucleolus.
Section 3. The cytoplasm environment. The fluid in between.
Okay, quick pause here because it's incredibly easy to mix these next 2 up, and we want to make sure you nail this. We just talked about the nucleoplasm. That's the liquid located strictly inside the nuclear membrane, securely locked away in the headquarters. But what about that massive space between the central nucleus and our elastic outer plasma membrane? Well, that entire open space is filled with a completely different liquid called the cytoplasm. Just remember, nucleo for the liquid locked inside the nucleus and cyto for the vast fluid space making up the rest of the cell body.
Section 4. Key cell organelles. The factories and power plants.
That vast cytoplasm liquid we just talked about, it is absolutely bustling with microscopic structures called organelles. We're going to track down 6 of them today. The Golgi body, the endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, mitochondria, the centrosome, and lysosomes. Let's systematically uncover them one by one. First up on the checklist is the Golgi body, or Golgi apparatus. This organelle is silently handling its own critical cellular tasks right there in the fluid. It's essentially acting like a microscopic post office, packaging up and distributing essential proteins and lipids to wherever they're needed most.
Next, we find a rather complex, almost folded-looking structure called the endoplasmic reticulum, which we often just call the ER to save some time. Notice how the endoplasmic reticulum isn't completely smooth? That's because it's heavily studded with tiny structures called ribosomes. They work incredibly closely with the ER in this shared space to build vital proteins.
Ah, the powerhouse of the cell. If you've spent any time on the internet or studying basic biology, you have definitely seen the memes about this one. It is arguably the most famous biological nickname in existence. But which of our organelles actually claims this legendary title?
Yep, there it is, the mitochondria. The mitochondria undeniably acts as the absolute powerhouse of the animal cell, constantly generating the massive amounts of energy required to keep this entire microscopic city running smoothly and efficiently. Total game changer.
Continuing our sweep, we find the centrosome, also called a centriole, playing its own highly distinct role in the cell's grand design. It acts as a crucial piece of the puzzle whenever the cell needs to divide and replicate.
Now, the suicidal bag of the cell. What's really interesting about this is just how intensely dark it sounds for a biology concept, right? It's a far grimmer moniker than our friendly powerhouse, but it highlights an incredibly serious and necessary function within our cellular city.
The organelles carrying this heavy title are the lysosomes. These specific structures act as the suicidal bags of the cell. Why? Well, because they contain incredibly powerful materials that, while totally essential for breaking down cellular waste, can actually entirely dismantle the cell itself if things go drastically wrong, or if the cell is heavily damaged. It's a fascinating, high-stakes biological self-destruct mechanism floating right there in the cytoplasm.
Section 5. The living material. Protoplasm. Bringing it all together.
So, let's tie the whole shebang together. Think back to those two distinct biological liquids we carefully contrasted earlier. You've got the nucleoplasm safely locked inside the nucleus, and that vast cytoplasm filling the rest of the cell and holding all those organelles. When you look at the cell as a whole, these two liquids essentially join forces. Nucleoplasm plus cytoplasm equals protoplasm.
By defining protoplasm, we're really defining the very essence of what the cell is. Everything we've explored today, the elastic outer walls, the headquarters, the powerhouse, the suicidal bags, and the varied fluids, collectively forms this protoplasm. It is the living material. It's the very essence of what makes this incredibly complex system fundamentally alive. Which brings us to a final thought I want to leave you pondering today. Just look at this incredibly intricate microscopic system we've mapped out together. Without that strict, selectively permeable boundary acting as an absolute gatekeeper, or without the perfect chemical balance of that living protoplasm within, could the animal cell ever hope to survive? It is a delicate, beautiful, and deeply complex balance that makes up the fundamental unit of you, me, and literally all animal life. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep exploring.